You know that feeling, right? When you're trying to say something in English or maybe write an email and you get that little knot in your stomach. It's like, is this grammar right? Am I going to sound silly?
Oh, absolutely. It's super common. That fear of making mistakes can really hold people back.
It really can. But the fascinating thing from the deep dive we just did into our sources
Hmm.
is that making mistakes isn't just, okay. It's actually essential. It's how you learn.
Exactly. It's fundamental to acquiring any language.
So today, we're really going to get into that. We're doing a deep dive into how you can actually minimize grammar mistakes, sure, but also how to build real confidence when you speak and write English.
Hmm.
Our mission here is to pull out the practical stuff, the actionable tips from the research that feel more like, I guess, a smart approach rather than just memorizing a giant rule book.
Yeah, less overwhelm, more natural learning. It's not about drilling endless grammar tables.
Right. It's about a more intuitive way in.
And that's the core idea, really. The sources we looked at, they draw on a lot of research about how languages are actually learned and understanding that it's a journey, and that errors are basically, well, they're like little course corrections for your brain. That changes everything.
Stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. I like that.
Precisely. It shifts your whole mindset.
Okay, so let's unpack that.
Yeah.
What's the first big pillar our sources point to for building this grammar confidence?
Well, it starts with the basics, understanding fundamental grammar, but, and this is key, without obsessing over every single tiny rule right at the start.
So focus is important. Don't try to swallow the whole dictionary on day one.
Exactly. Be strategic. The research actually shows something pretty interesting here.
Oh, yeah.
Learners who really nail down the most common structures, first things like simple present tense, I go, she works, simple past, I went, she worked, and just basic sentence order, subject, verb, object.
The real workhorses of the language.
Right. Those learners tend to reduce their overall grammar errors much faster. We're talking potentially up to 35% quicker, according to some studies cited, because you're hitting the high-frequency stuff.
Wow, okay. So focus pays off.
It really does. Using simple grammar guides or, some of those language learning apps that focus on the core patterns helps build that strong foundation, like building the frame of a house before worrying about the paint color.
That makes so much sense. You avoid feeling totally swamped, and you actually feel like you're making progress early on, which is great for staying motivated.
Motivation's huge.
So once you have a grip on those basics, how do you make them stick?
Yeah.
Like really internalize them? The sources mentioned something about listening, almost absorbing it.
Yeah, this is where auditory learning comes in, and it's incredibly powerful. The idea is to immerse yourself in native English speech movies, podcasts, YouTube, whatever you enjoy.
Just listening passively.
Well, active listening is better. And the sources specifically highlight a technique called shadowing, or just simple imitation.
Shadowing. You mean like repeating what you hear?
Exactly. You listen to a phrase or a sentence and you try to repeat it immediately, mimicking the pronunciation, the rhythm, the intonation. It sounds simple, but it does something really interesting in the brain.
Okay.
It engages what are called mirror neurons. It basically helps connect hearing the correct grammar and patterns to actually producing them yourself, sort of bypassing the need to consciously think about the rule. You start to develop a feel for what sounds right.
Ah, so it's like you're training your ear and your mouth at the same time, building intuition, getting those aha moments without hitting the books.
Precisely. It feels more natural, less academic.
I love that. Now, speaking of intuition, the next point tackles something that causes a lot of anxiety, actually speaking. The advice is pretty blunt, right? Don't wait.
It is. And it's backed by solid findings. Studies looking at learner progress show that actively speaking, even with errors and getting corrected or self-correcting, helps you solidify correct grammar pathways significantly faster. Like maybe even twice as fast in some contexts compared to learners who stay silent waiting for perfection.
Twice as fast. That's huge. So mistakes are actually good.
They're not just good, they're necessary.
Yeah.
They are learning opportunities. Every time you speak, you're testing your internal grammar rules. You get feedback either from the listener's reaction or your own sense of, that didn't sound quite right. And your brain adjusts. It's a natural refinement process.
Like tuning an instrument by playing it.
Exactly like that. You don't tune a guitar just by looking at the sheet music. You have to pluck the strings.
That really changes how you think about errors. It's okay to sound imperfect. You just need to get out there. So speaking is active practice. What about more passive ways to absorb grammar? Reading came up too.
Yes, reading is often underestimated, but it's incredibly effective, especially reading simpler English materials regularly.
Like kids' books.
Or Could be simple news articles, graded readers designed for learners, even short stories. The key is that the language isn't too complex, so you're not constantly stopping to look things up.
Right, so you can just read.
Exactly. And as you read, your brain subconsciously starts noticing sentence structures, how words fit together, common patterns. It's like seeing the grammar in action, visually.
And I guess you pick up vocabulary, too.
Absolutely. That's the double win. Better vocabulary gives you more tools to express yourself correctly, which supports better grammar. It all works together.
So a daily habit of reading something simple can make a big difference over time. Seeing the language used correctly again and again.
Consistency is key there.
Okay, so we've got listening, speaking, reading. What about writing? The sources suggested that as active practice too, right? Even small amounts.
Writing is where you actively construct the language yourself. The sources suggest starting small, write a few sentences about your day, maybe a short journal entry or a simple email.
Just getting thoughts down.
Yeah, but then comes the crucial step, checking your work. This is where tools can be really helpful. Things like, Grammarly or other grammar checkers.
Using technology.
For sure. But don't just accept the correction and move on. The real learning happens when you look at the mistake and try to understand why it was wrong. Was it subject-verb agreement? Wrong tense? A wonky preposition?
So you analyze the feedback.
Right. Understand the pattern, then maybe try rewriting the sentence correctly a couple of different ways. That process, write, check, analyze, rewrite really cements the learning.
That sounds really practical. Gives you a clear way to see your weak spots and actively work on them. Which actually leads nicely into the next point, which you said was really interesting. Learning grammar in context. What does that mean exactly?
This is a big one. It's about moving away from learning grammar rules in isolation, like just memorizing verb conjugations from a chart.
Which is how a lot of us learned in school, right?
Well, unfortunately, yes. Contextual learning means you learn a grammar point as part of a real phrase or situation. So instead of just learning the rule for going to indicates future plans.
You learn the actual phrase.
Like, I'm going to call my friend later. Or learning prepositions attached to verbs, like you don't just learn on, you learn depend on, rely on, or listen to. You learn them in chunks.
Okay, so the grammar point is tied directly to its meaning and use.
Exactly. Your brain remembers it better because it's connected to something meaningful and practical. It makes the grammar easier to recall and use correctly when you actually need it in a conversation, rather than trying to consciously assemble a sentence based on abstract rules.
That makes so much sense. You learn it because you need it for something specific and answers the why does this rule matter question. Okay, so we've got all these quick strategies, self-study, immersion, practice. But what about getting help from other people?
Essential. The sources are pretty clear on this. While self-correction and using tools is great, getting feedback from others can really accelerate your progress.
Like teachers or language partners?
Yep. Teachers, language exchange partners, even just friends who speak English well. The key is to ask them specifically for feedback on your grammar.
But nicely, right? You don't want someone picking apart every tiny thing.
Absolutely. Ask for kind, constructive feedback, maybe focusing on recurring errors or major issues rather than every single little slip-up. That external perspective is invaluable because we often don't notice our own habitual mistakes.
Yeah, blind spots.
Everyone does. So that targeted feedback helps you spot them and fix them much faster than trying to figure it all out alone.
Yeah.
It really reinforces that learning is often collaborative.
Okay, leveraging the knowledge of others. Makes sense. So wrapping this all up, there's one overarching philosophy that seemed to run through all the sources. Something about the journey.
Right. It's this idea of practicing consistently, not perfectly. That's probably the most liberating message for learners.
So don't aim for perfection, aim for showing up.
Pretty much. The research consistently shows that regular daily practice, even if it's just 15-20 minutes, and even if you're making mistakes during that practice, is far more effective for long-term improvement than sporadic, intense study sessions where you're trying to get everything perfect.
Because consistency builds habits and strengthens those neural pathways we talked about.
Exactly. Language learning is an organic process. Your grammar will improve gradually over time with consistent effort and exposure. So the focus should be on sustainable practice, enjoying the process, and not getting paralyzed by the fear of errors.
That's really empowering. It takes the pressure off.
It really should.
So let's try and boil this down. What's the core takeaway for you, listening right now? It seems the key to learning English grammar well isn't just about rules, is it?
Not at all. It's about balance. Understand the essential rules. Yes, get that foundation. But then, immediately, You need to dive into real-world practice.
Through listening and imitating what you hear.
Mm-hmm. Speaking, even when you're scared.
Reading
Yeah.
consistently, choosing simpler stuff.
Yep. And writing regularly, then actively checking and learning from your mistakes.
And learning grammar points as you need them in context.
Right. It's that combination of focused learning and broad, consistent practice.
And maybe the biggest thing, don't fear the mistakes.
Please don't. See them as proof you're learning, proof you're trying. They're the signals your brain uses to get better. The sources are really reassuring on. Confidence grows and mistakes naturally decrease as you keep going.
It's a process, not an overnight fix.
Definitely.
So here's something to think about, building on all this. How could this philosophy professed, embracing mistakes as part of learning, focusing on consistent practice over impossible perfection, how could that apply to other things you want to learn? Any new skill, any area of knowledge? What challenges might you tackle differently if you approach them this way?